Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So the new voter registration report out of North Carolina shows that Republicans are up almost 100,000 active voters over the Democrats. And this was a state that the Democrats had control in for a very, very long time. I don't even know the last time Republicans, if ever, had an advantage in the state by voter registration over the Democrats, and that just means you have more solid, reliable Republican voters that are there to be banked for the party moving forward, and that's huge ahead of this upcoming Senate election that is going to be taking place next fall, because it's going to be one of the most high-profile, if not the most high-profile Senate race in the entire country. But on top of it, it's important to note that North Carolina and Pennsylvania, these states will determine the outcome of the 2028 election, make no mistake about it, and both have veered significantly to the right when it comes down to voter registration numbers, even since the election. Pennsylvania's active voter registration totals possibly are on track to flip by the end of the year, and the total voter registration numbers possibly could even flip by the midterms, depending on what happens. But for sure, I believe that they will flip before the next election, which is not good news for the Democrats or Gavin Newsom or whoever they really want to put up, because you have those two states, and then you have the numbers in Arizona, where Trump won by more than 5, and they keep zooming to the right. Nevada's kind of on a seesaw, but it's moved to the right since the election, and there's really no signs of it slowing down, to the point where I think you can make the case that in the long run, Republicans are going to pick up more momentum in the Silver State, given how trends are going. It's a very working class heavy state. There's a lot of favorable demographics for Republicans there that they've been doing better with and probably will continue to do better with, to the point where I think that you could say that both of those states are going to begin in the Republican column to some degree for 2028. And what does that mean? It means that the Republicans can get North Carolina, which they usually have been able to get barring very rare circumstances, and then the state of Pennsylvania. Because the way the states are trending, I think Pennsylvania moving to the right, Georgia not so much. If they get those two states and hold Arizona, hold Nevada, and then hold every other electoral entity that they won by over 10 points, which they should, there's no reason why Republicans should lose the 2028 election. So in this video, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive with the 2024 map, showing how Donald Trump won these swing states, 6 of which he was not able to claim in 2020. And how can Republicans keep winning them? Will they be able to keep winning them? We'll dive into it, but really quickly, got to tell you guys about my friends over at Allegiance Gold. While the media is obsessing about Trump's tariff, something big is brewing and nobody's talking about it except right here. Because under new Basel III international banking rules, gold has officially been reclassified as a Tier 1 asset, placing it on the same level as cash in U.S. Treasuries. Translation, gold is money again. Just in the first quarter, thousands of tons of gold were quietly moved back to the U.S. from Europe. Meanwhile, central banks around the globe are stockpiling gold at record levels. That's not a coincidence, it's a signal. So if the world's most powerful financial institutions are hoarding gold, why aren't you? Don't wait. Call Allegiance Gold, the trusted experts that I've partnered with that have the highest ratings and accolades. They'll help you secure real physical gold and silver delivered straight to your home or placed securely inside your IRA or 401k. Go to allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191 and mention Red Eagle. You could be eligible to receive up to $5,000 in free metals, but only if you act now, because gold is freedom, gold is sovereignty, and as of now, gold is officially money. That's allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191 today. All right, guys, so back to the video. We're going to start off. We have 7 swing states. And yeah, I know New Hampshire is entering the column. We're going to focus on the big 7, the 7 that we talked about. And we'll start off with North Carolina. This was a state that Donald Trump won in 2020, if you want to look at it. But he only won it by not even 100,000 votes. He actually won it by around 70-some thousand votes, and then he won it by 183,000 votes. So a net gain of over 100,000 votes since then. And how exactly was he able to pull this off? Well, we talk about the circles. The red circles had to get bigger and the blue circles had to get smaller. And the more volume in the red circles compared to the blue circles means you win the state, and by what margin. And you look at the shift from 2020, and it's kind of a tale of two halves, because some people said Western North Carolina moved to the left because of the hurricane. And maybe it did affect turnout slightly, but so many people were like panicking, saying it was going to impact turnout by a lot. But what we do know is that when it came down to Buncombe County, that is a growing Democrat stronghold. That is Asheville. A lot of, liberal type of people are moving there. A lot of, more college-educated white liberal population. And Kamala Harris was able to go out there and do better in that area, and the growth is kind of spilling over a little bit into some of the other parts of Western North Carolina. However, Eastern North Carolina was a bloodbath, a lot of red. You saw shifts to the right of like 9 points in some of these counties where you have a lot of like rural, not just white working class voters, but you have a lot of like black voters that for some reason have been willing to embrace voting Republican in some of these rural areas, more so than other parts of the South. You have like the Lumbee tribe and, certain Native American groups, but also a lot of like white retirees, like boomers moving down from the New York area. That definitely has played a major role in the voter registration shift. So if you see this shift in the Eastern North Carolina, it's outnumbering the shift in Western North Carolina. That's huge. Now it also comes down to the other metro areas. Charlotte, definitely moving a little bit to the right, helped out the Research Triangle area. Raleigh, Durham, moving to the right. Kamala Harris kind of maxed out. Some younger voters moving right definitely helped out there. And as a result, Donald Trump was able to go out there and take the state despite a massive effort on part of the Harris campaign and spending. He still won it by 3 percentage points. So what's the future of the state going to be? I think it stays a swing state that leans Republican. It's going to take a very, very, very good year for Democrats to win it in 2028 because Republicans, they are seemingly building up this higher floor. Obama, when he barely won it in 2008, you had a recession, you had very high black turnout, and I know that things have changed in the state since then. I think it would be more winnable for a Democrat in like a D+7 environment than it was back then. But it just seems like the state is titanium, like lean Republican. Maybe Democrats could pick it off if they have a very good year. They may need to in order to end up winning the election. But as it stands now, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do so long as the trends continue. And so long as Republicans can keep getting, respectable numbers in like the Charlotte metro, because those exurbs, the population definitely adds up a lot. So North Carolina, I think it's going to stay in the Republican column. Georgia, on the other hand, this one may be not so much. Now, 2020 in Georgia was definitely a very unique circumstance. I don't think a lot of Democrats even expected Biden to pull it out. But again, when you count ballots for how many days that he wins by, 12,000 votes, people are going to start asking some questions, and we understand that. But still, we understand Georgia has changed, and it is not what it was in 2016. And it does seem as if, you have the election laws have changed. They're back to normal. The Abrams machine is gone. That helped Donald Trump go out there and win the state for sure, despite high turnout overall. And the rural areas kept getting redder. He kept running up the margins in a lot of these like exurban counties for sure. But when it came down to the shifts, he even did better in inner city Atlanta, in Fulton, in DeKalb. Some of that is doing better among black voters. Mainly young black male voters, which again, in the state of Georgia, it's a non-insignificant portion of the population. And as generational shifts continue, what possibly could save Republicans in Georgia is if, black voters in the younger generations, they're not going to vote Republican, but if they're voting like 30% Republican instead of like 5% Republican, that does indeed go a long way. So we'll see what happens on that front. He also did better in Gwinnett County, sizable Hispanic and Asian population there. Cobb County lost a little bit, but not really a whole lot. But the real losses were in these counties, and you have a big college-educated black population. A lot of them have moved from Atlanta, but also Chicago and other parts of the country to some of these like southern suburbs. And that's why you have the growth and you have the big shifts to the left. And there's really no signs of that slowing down. And will that help Democrats in the state in the long run? For sure. Can Republicans win it in 2028? Yes, but it is definitely moving to the left. I mean, the state's voted to the left of North Carolina for 2 cycles in a row, and it does seem as if I think next cycle it's actually going to vote to the left of Pennsylvania, which, speaking of Pennsylvania, you have this state right here that Donald Trump won by 120,000 votes. Now, definitely Joe Biden had this home state effect thing going on in Pennsylvania in 2020, where it came down to places like Lackawanna County. And when you look at the biggest shifts in Pennsylvania, Lackawanna County moved to the right by nearly 6 percentage points, which was absolutely huge. That home region effect among a lot of those Irish and Polish voters in northeastern Pennsylvania was wiped away. That was key to Donald Trump's victory. We talked about it a lot before the election, and it rang true on election night. Western Pennsylvania, you definitely had a lot more shift to the right among some of these ancestral white working class Democrats. And in the Philadelphia metro, similar thing, a lot of Italians in Bucks County, a lot of different ethnic groups. You had Puerto Rican voters move right significantly, contrary to the Democrat wish casting before the election. And that's partially why Trump was able to crack 20 in Philadelphia County, but also nearly flip a place like Lehigh and run it up in Reading and Berks County. So Pennsylvania is definitely a place where you have a lot of different groups moving to the right, where you have these white ethnic Catholic voters that are starting to vote like the white working class voter that's in rural Pennsylvania in a place like Bedford County. Trump's getting 84% of the vote. Places like Bucks County is not getting that level. Of course, regional differences matter, and we understand that. But when you have this depolarization by denomination, that definitely helps out. And the fact that Trump's successor, J.D. Vance, is Catholic and probably puts another one, Marco Rubio, on the ticket, that definitely could bode well in the state of Pennsylvania. It's just not a state that is really buying a lot of what the Democratic Party has been selling, and that's why down ballot Bob Casey lost and so many other different people lost. But there's more room to grow for Republicans in Pennsylvania. It depends how the Philadelphia suburbs go. Have Democrats hit a wall? I mean, even in places like Chester County that I thought would move left, it moved almost 3 points to the right. I think it comes down to just voter registration. That's a key indicator. You saw it in Florida in 2020 when Trump went out there and won the state by over 3 points. People didn't expect it because the dam broke. And now Pennsylvania, that dam is breaking. And we will probably be able to see what that ends up looking like in 2028 if this continues, because I think that you possibly could have Republicans go out there and win the state by, 3 points, assuming they get decent turnout and can energize voters and have a national environment that is not horrendous to them. Now, the state of Michigan, this one is unique because Wayne County really carried a lot of the burden. And of course, you have the city of Detroit. Trump doing about 5 to 10 points better among black voters definitely was able to help chip away at Kamala Harris's margin. If you look at 2020 in the state of Michigan, Biden, he got almost 600,000 votes in Wayne, whereas Trump got 260,000. Now Trump got 288,000. Harris had a drop off of 60,000 votes. So you kind of see what happened there, and there was a massive, massive shift to the right. And it wasn't just there. You also had Macomb County, which is a very, white working class area. But again, a lot of ethnic whites, a lot of, Arab Christians live there. You have a lot of Poles, some Italian, some other Eastern European groups. And you have the auto industry that's very big there, which Donald Trump made it a point to, go out there, court the union vote, et cetera. And it worked for him because he won the county by 14 points. Even Oakland County, which is kind of you kind of have a mix of a traditional, college-educated, white, upper-class suburban county. And then you also kind of have the other side of things where you have the emphasis on the auto industry and, plenty of working-class voters there as well. Donald Trump also doing 3.5 points better, also plenty of Arab voters. And that was a big thing in Wayne County. when it came down to the Muslim vote, because, I mean, the net shift, it wasn't a big portion of the population, but the net shift was like, 80,000 votes. It was nearly enough on its own to flip the state of Michigan into Trump's column. And he also did better in the rural areas, which is to be expected, and, is really running it up all over the place. And, even Kent County, which is where Grand Rapids is, it's still trending to the left, but it's still shifted to the right. So in the state of Michigan, what's the future? If Republicans can keep up their appeal to the white working class voters, they can do very well. And also another part of it is when it comes down to foreign policy, and people will say that, oh, well, Trump is kind of, being a little bit more pro-Israel now. He's going to lose the Muslim voters, but he never really was never pro-Israel. I mean, the strike in Iran is something that, you can debate, but it's not something he didn't do in term one for one. But for two, I think that the main reason why a lot of voters in Dearborn, for example, voted for Trump, it was because he's the peace candidate. It wasn't because he was the pro-Palestine candidate. Jill Stein was the pro-Palestine candidate. She got a fair share of the vote there too. And maybe Democrats could win some of those voters back. But when it comes down to Muslims, a lot of them want peace in that region. And they know Trump is the guy who is more likely to go out there and strike a deal between Israel and Gaza, where you're going to have some legitimate ceasefire. And it's peace through strength. And if Trump is able to do that, then he's going to get a lot more of the votes next time, regardless of, whatever he's been doing with Iran. So that's it for Michigan. I think the future is that it's going to remain a swing state, and Republicans really kind of saw the revival of the party there. We'll see what happens in 2026 with the Senate race, if they'll be able to keep it close, and also the governor's race too. But as it goes for Wisconsin, this is a bit interesting because I was anticipating Wisconsin to be a state where Trump would win it by more than Michigan, if not even more than Pennsylvania, because you have a big rural population that is not really maxed out yet. And the driftless area, it's like 20% of the state population. And Trump definitely was doing a lot better in those counties. It's why he won the state. He also turned a corner among younger voters in Madison and Dane County, which is very liberal, but him doing a little bit better with like UW voters was able to move the needle a bit in his column. Also, Milwaukee County, he did better, but the turnout was very high, a little suspiciously high, and then obviously he's going to be running it up in the more industrial parts, the exurbs, Racine, Kenosha, heavy white working class population there, holding his own in the Bow counties, Green Bay, Appleton, Oshkosh, the Fox cities, etc. So this really comes down to turnout in the future, because you will probably see some of these rural counties continue to move to the right. The WOW counties, however, are a bit interesting, and it's not because you have a lot of traditional Republicans at this point that are switching their votes, because that already happened in 2020. You didn't see much of that in 2024, but you have a lot of, Chicagoans that have moved out of Illinois and have moved to Waukesha County, Washington County, Ozaukee County. They're still Republican-heavy counties. They'll continue to, move a little bit to the left, and Democrats have that padding. But again, it's 10% of the state. Republicans need to continue to make inroads, go to places that they don't usually go, make sure they can go to the smaller metros and go to Madison and Milwaukee and see what you can do there as well. Because if they're able to do that, I think they're going to have a decent future in the state of Wisconsin. And I think that, 2028, it's still going to be close. And hopefully we could possibly get a change to the election system between now and then. But still, it's going to be a swing state. It's not lean Republican territory. If any of these three is leaning towards that way, I would say it would be the state of Pennsylvania. And if anything, Michigan's in the middle, because I think Republicans just have a little bit more room to grow there compared to a state like Wisconsin, which is ironic. But some of these rural areas, it's a lot of these boomers that are just set in their ways and vote Democrat. And again, it's kind of on both sides. You'll have your Republican boomer that votes Republican, but generationally, their kids and grandkids are more likely to be Republican. And as time passes, it's kind of like what we're seeing with like the black vote or the Hispanic vote, for example. The younger generations take over, become more dominant, and they're going to be shown up on the map more as red in the case of rural Wisconsin. So we have two more states here that we're going to analyze and break down. I know it's a long video, but Arizona, This is one where Donald Trump in 2020, it was razor thin, and a lot of people raised suspicions, and that's fair. But Trump did improve a lot, and the voter registration went with it, and the dam just broke. Maricopa County was Biden +2, and then Maricopa County goes Trump +3. Interesting to see how that happens. And, it's a county that has a lot of moving parts to it. And Trump did much better in South Phoenix. He did better in West Phoenix. He held his own in East Phoenix as well. The party did a great job at becoming more competent. And if this continues into 26, good chance that Katie Hobbs could lose to Andy Biggs. But he also did just very well in all the other parts of the state. I think every county in the state moved right, especially the ones by the border. Yuma County by 14, Santa Cruz County by 17. Trump did very well with Hispanic voters. I think that was enough to make the difference, and he held his own with white voters, maybe did a little bit better among white working class voters. But some of those margins, like 78-22 in Mojave County, just absolutely astounding. And then you go to Nevada. Nevada, this is a state that's been moving to the right for a while, kind of quietly, but Republicans have always had this PTSD where they haven't been able to get it. And a lot of the counties moved right in 2020, including Clark County, one of the few big counties that moved right in 2020. But Donald Trump went from losing it by over 9 points, and then now if you look at it, he almost flipped the county because he did much better in Vegas, did better with Hispanics, did better with Filipinos, did better with white working class voters, had a lot of conservative Californians move in to Nevada. That helped out a lot. He almost flipped Washoe County, which is where Reno is. So he did much better overall. The no tax on tips thing definitely helped him to an extent. I don't think it was the full margin, obviously, but the fact that he delivered on that promise with the tip deduction will, I think, do a lot to ensure that a lot of those voters in the Vegas area continue voting Republican, especially for Trump-like Republicans in the future at the presidential level. So I think Nevada's going to stay red. I think it's going to move more and more to the right, especially as more people move from California to Las Vegas, and that's definitely going to be something that will help out Republicans. So when you look at the swing states, it's like, yeah, I think that Arizona and Nevada are probably gone for Democrats in the short term. I don't know what the long term is going to look like because you can never predict it. I think North Carolina and Pennsylvania, it would take a very, very good year with a very good candidate for Democrats to win both of those, which if Republicans win both, they get the presidency. Georgia is a state that I think is kind of in limbo. It's going to be competitive. I think Democrats have the upper hand in the long run. We'll see. Michigan and Wisconsin will remain competitive in 2028. But again, I think that they would be Vance's to lose against somebody like Gavin Newsom, assuming the economy is holding steady. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.